At the start, it felt like a lot of the time I was like the bitch of the team. I get it, like they gave me a lot of tasks and you have to start somewhere, right? You have to start from the bottom. That's fine. But I was getting tasks from like the admin department and then even one time like from the accounts. And I was like, I don't even know why you're giving me this. I wasn't like, that wasn't in the job description. But it was like, oh, you need to start somewhere. And I was like, that has nothing to do with copywriting, but okay.
Hey daar en welkom bij Agency Life, de podcast die creatieve, digitale en andere bureaus helpt om slimmer te werken, hun volledige potentieel te bereiken en beter inzicht te krijgen in hun business. Ik ben Robin, jullie host voor vandaag. De komende paar afleveringen vlieg ik helaas solo, want mijn geweldige co-host Louise is met zwangerschapsverlof. Louise, als je dit hoort, gefeliciteerd, joepie, we missen je en veel succes met het opvoeden van generatie Alpha. Terwijl Louise druk bezig is met de allerkleinste, duiken wij in een generatie die nu al flink van zich laat horen. Gen Z. Hoe veranderen zij de manier waarop bureaus werken? Wat zijn de grootste misverstanden over het samenwerken met Gen Z-talent? En hoe kunnen bureaus intergenerationele samenwerking, wat een woord, beter ondersteunen? Luie kranten schrijven misschien dat die Gen Z'ers allemaal hetzelfde doen en allemaal hetzelfde denken. Dat is volgens ons onwaarschijnlijk. Anderen zouden durven zeggen dat er helemaal geen rode draad is en dat elke Gen Z'er anders is. Ook dat is onwaarschijnlijk. Maar onze gast van vandaag zou ons wijzer moeten maken over het onderwerp. Want Carolyn McMurray begon haar carrière als copywriter op haar 17e en op haar 24e heeft ze al gewerkt met grote klanten als Verizon en Scoro. Ze is absoluut Gen Z, want ze is geboren in het jaar 2000. Neem even de tijd om na te denken over hoe kort geleden dat was en hoe oud jij wel bent. Sta er even uit het raam als dat helpt. Carolyn is ook de oprichter van Word Tonic, een levendige community van meer dan 10.000 Gen Z copywriters, waar leden carrière-tips, inzichten in copywriting, cursussen en advies van toonaangevende experts krijgen. Dat maakt van haar een uitstekende woordvoerder om de wensen, behoeften en twijfels van een hele creatieve generatie te vertegenwoordigen. Welkom bij Agency Life. Maar voor we erin duiken, een kort woordje van onze sponsor. Deze aflevering van Agency Life wordt je namelijk, net als alle andere afleveringen, aangeboden door Teamleader Orbit, de performance software voor agencies die hen helpt groeien. Run je een bureau en snak je naar gestroomlijnd projectbeheer, tijdregistratie, facturering en ga zo maar door? Surf dan naar teamleader.eu/orbit en ontdek hoe Teamleader Orbit jouw bedrijf kan helpen om slimmer te werken. En nu is het tijd voor Carolyn McMurray. Hi Carolyn, welcome to the podcast. How have you been?
Hey, I'm doing good. I'm doing good. It's been a busy day, so it's nice to just sit down and chat.
And have a little conversation, indeed.
Yeah.
I've been following your LinkedIn posts for a while about Gen Z copywriting, amongst others, and they're always a mix of funny and painfully accurate. So let's use one of your latest posts as a sort of launch pad. As a creative writer, you are seriously pissed off at uni and at school in general. Why is that?
So like that age between like 12 to 16, you're not told, or at least I wasn't told, about the proper career options. Like if you're a writer, it was publisher, journalist, author, or teacher for some weird reason. And so I went into life after school thinking, okay, well, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. I have to go to uni because that's like what everyone does. And also my school didn't talk about apprenticeships or like other routes. It was sort of like, you're dumb if you don't go to uni. They didn't say that, but it was like, that's what it felt like. So then I ended up going to study business the first time, and I hated that, so I quit. And then I went back again to study English, and I ended up quitting that as well. I quit because I couldn't afford it. So I have this like, I seem very anti it because I just don't think it's necessary for certain careers like advertising or copywriting, especially if you don't have the money to pay for it. And yeah, and school's not just being clear about like the options out there.
Yeah, part of what I got from your post is that the British education system doesn't really set young creatives up for success. Do I have that right?
Yeah, but that's what I feel, and that's what a lot of people that I've talked to that are also young writers from the UK, like it feels like that because you're trundled down like the journalism route, and advertising is never really mentioned, so it's kind of weird.
Yeah. Is Word Tonic a way for you to fill that void?
Yeah, actually, it's one of the reasons I created it because I was coming across so many other young people that didn't know that copywriting existed or even what it was. I mean, they knew they would, okay, that's an ad, that's a blog, that's an email, but for some reason, actually connecting the dots and going, that's a career. Like very few of them understood that. So I wanted to create it to spread the word about copywriting, but then also make a slightly easier way in than like £9,000 ad school.
Yeah. I also read something in your comments about, well, literally it said, it's created by Gen Z for Gen Z, so the advice and teachings aren't outdated. Is that something you feel as well?
Yeah, I mean, I joined other copywriting communities and a lot of them were like really good. It just didn't feel like I could fit in. And I think it was the outdated thing. Yeah, I think more I meant it in terms of like, as a young person, you can't see yourself in someone's shoes who's like maybe 40 and has like 10 years of experience. Like you can't see the actionable steps to actually getting in their position. Whereas like seeing other young people that are 25, 26 writing for Spotify, it's like it seems more realistic. Like if they can do it, I can too. So it came more from like that.
Yeah. Could you explain how Word Tonic works exactly for me? There's a newsletter, but there's also paid courses. What do you guys
Yeah.
offer?
So it first started off just as a newsletter and then it transformed into a community as well. So the newsletter is just like open to everyone. And then we have a community that's paid. And within it, there's like masterclasses with brands like Google and Lego. We do like challenges as well. So like in March, we're doing a challenge of Lego. And then next month with Puma, do little briefs. And then there's just this big community where we chat with each other and, act weird. And we do have a course as well, but that's like separate to everything else.
Yeah. So you started at 17 with no degree. How did you land your first assignments?
So the first one, like at 17, it was like this local business that I knew. So I was just doing stuff for free, like blogs and stuff and social captions. But I didn't know that it was copywriting. I was just kind of like doing something that I didn't understand. But the real one came like after I decided to quit uni, because then I started seriously trying to like build my freelance stuff up. And the first one was with this like content agency. I'm not gonna lie, the first one was really like not good. It was like £30 per 1,000 words. So I feel like that, yeah. I went through a couple of those and then eventually a couple months later I got one at like a Dubai agency with a normal day rate, and then things started getting better from there.
No. What would you tell other young people like you who are considering a similar path?
I would there's a few things. So I think the first thing would be if you want to do a degree or further education, like really think about it. Like I feel like a lot of people do a degree, especially if you're like doing English degrees. You do it, but you're not 100% sure. And if you're not 100% sure, like just give it a bit of pause because that's a lot of money. So rethink it. I would also give copywriting like a trial first. You don't know if it's for you. Um,
Mhm.
and then another one is like, don't just dive right in. I feel like a lot of people, they find out about it and then they want to immediately build a portfolio. And it's like, you just found out about it a week ago. Like,
You're now at 10,000 subscribers for the newsletter. Do I have that right?
yeah.
Yeah. So what made you pull the trigger on launching this huge community?
Honestly, I was doing the newsletter and then like this girl reached out to me and was like, there's no one else my age doing copywriting that I know of, and you're doing this newsletter. There must be so many of us in the same boat reading the newsletter. What do you think about creating a community? And I was like, oh, that's cool. That's interesting. And actually my boyfriend, he was running like an agent, like this advisory board. And he
Mhm.
did some stuff and it gave me the idea of doing similar things like these masterclasses with big brands. And then I think we hit 300 subscribers on the newsletter. And I was like, oh, let's just launch this. It was probably premature because that wasn't a good time to do it, but I prefer to just do it and then test things as we go rather than like waiting until we have like 1,000 subscribers to launch it.
Yeah. So whereas others might just like try a uni course, not really convinced that that's something they want to do, but they just go and do it. You went and did the work and then started a newsletter, and just one thing came after the other.
It's yeah, but it didn't feel like that in the time. It was like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like I have no
Yeah.
idea what's happening. So it was like kind of going in blind. But then looking back, it's nice.
Okay. Let's talk a bit about Gen Z in the agency, because you did freelance work for 4 agencies, I believe. Is that right?
Yeah. 4
Uh,
agencies.
but what we got from our research, from reading up on you, is that period was marked by some big challenges, feeling undervalued, dealing with low pay. Tell us a bit about that. What did you encounter? How did it feel? And what did it teach you about yourself and where you wanted to go in your career?
I think there's a few things. So one of them was at the start, it felt like a lot of the time I was like the bitch of the team. I get it. Like they gave me a lot of tasks, and you have to start somewhere, right? You have to start from the bottom. That's fine. But I was
Mhm.
getting tasks from like the admin department, and then even one time like from the accounts, and I was like, I don't even know why you're giving me this. I wasn't like that wasn't in the job description, but it was like, oh, you need to start somewhere, and I was like, that has nothing to do with copywriting, but okay. So that was one thing that was annoying. Um, a lot of the time also there was a lot of work that was dragged over into like the evenings, which was fine, but then I didn't get paid for it, so that's not great. The pay as well was kind of bad at the start, but that might have been less the agency's fault and maybe more my fault for not advocating for myself properly at
Mhm.
like in interviews and stuff. um and I think the things I've learned from it is I'm not great at calls, like interviews and stuff like that. So I have to really prepare. And
Mhm.
it's okay if on the call I say, you know what, I'll get back to you. Let me just think about it. Especially when it comes to like pay. If someone puts a figure in front of me, it's easy for me to just get backed into a corner.
I read somewhere that you said, I have 2,000 amazing Gen Z creatives at my disposal to tap into. Those feelings of that low pay, being undervalued, but also not being properly educated and shown the way in your creative career. Are these things that you hear from other creatives in the Word Tonic community as well?
Yeah, the pay one is a big one. Another one that keeps popping up is, they hop on an interview with someone and then the person just ghosts them. They never even like send you didn't get the job, which the big brands, maybe I get it, but maybe there could just be like some automated thing in place that just says you didn't get it. Um, Another one that really comes up a lot is this thing of some agencies or brands in general, whatever hirers, not having the initiative at certain points to say, okay, you've been here like 3 years now or 4 years. Maybe we could like bump you up from just like copywriter to junior. There was someone in Word Tonic who had been copywriting for like 5 years, and they've still not been put to midway, and now they've had to say to the agency, they've had to initiate that conversation. So I think a lot of them have been wanting agencies and stuff like that to have that initiative and say, oh, you've gotten to this stage, we're going to actively like have a call with you and talk about that.
Mhm. What's the most common complaints that you hear coming back from all these young copywriters and creatives? Like the number one thing that people say, oh gosh, yes, I encountered that too.
That's a hard one. It's probably the pay, I'm not gonna lie. Like I think in UK I read like the average is 150 to 250 a day for a newbie, but they
Mhm.
might be getting like 80 or 90 or something like that. So it's that, and then the general feeling of the fact that they feel like some people see their lack of years of experience meaning lack of talent, which I don't think is true in my opinion.
The years of experience one might be interesting because it can be a bit of a vicious cycle. You have to have experience to get a job, but you
Yeah.
don't have experience, so you don't get the job, so you don't build experience.
Right. It's like, how do you get experience when getting experience seems to require having experience?
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I really love spec work. You know, it's really high. It's still respected in the industry. Like he's got D&AD that do it. You get awards for it. So that's an easy way to like build a portfolio without having experience.
That's what you would advise to young budding copywriters: do some work, some original work for free, and see how it lands.
Yeah, even like I don't know if the free is the right, like it's more like choosing a brand you really like and then creating something as if you were really writing for them. So then you
Yeah,
enjoy it. You're not just like working for some brand that's not paying you. At least you're
yeah,
doing something you love and then you can show it off, kind of thing.
yeah. So we talked about the negative feelings or the negative encounters in the early days of your career. But some Word Tonic members have gone on to do to land big copywriting gigs. I see brands like Guess and Bumble and even Spotify, I believe.
Yeah, yeah.
What are these companies doing differently that makes them attractive to a Gen Z Word Tonic copywriter?
I think one of them is a big one, and it seems like normal, but the pay transparency thing. So like being upfront about how much is it, how much are you going to get paid, not like beating around the bush and stuff like that. Just being like, this is it upfront. I think another thing that they've really liked is like learning and development opportunities. Like all of the people that we've connected up so far have had like learning and development budgets from these places to like work in their own writing skills. Some of them put the Word Tonic membership towards that. Others might join other communities or get courses, but it's paid for by the employer. So agencies that actively want their people to like learn new skills in their own time has been really helpful. Yeah, that's at the top of my head. That's the two main things.
Yeah. That seems to be a big one, a big recurring issue as well. The talent development in the creative agency scene. You're supposed to know the skill, but there's very little paths to actually getting better besides learning on the job. Do you feel that way as well?
Yeah, and I think another thing, there's also this expectation, and this is what I've found, like with agencies and stuff, the ones that I've spoken to, that want to dip into Word Tonic's writers, is that they're like, okay, we want fresh emerging talents, but they need 1 year's experience. And I'm like, but not everyone is. Some of them are just graduates, you know. And they're saying we don't mind, we're open to graduates, but then you're putting that label on there of 1 year's experience. So that's annoying as well. Like that it doesn't work that way. You know, I think you need to give people a chance to learn on the job. If you can see their portfolio with spec work is really good and you can see there's talent there,
Mm-hmm.
they could learn on the job, you know, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah. And then when it comes to pay, it's not that these Gen Z copywriters are demanding to be paid in big bags of money, but they need to have some sort of a path visible to them, some sort of a transparency.
Yeah, even just
Yeah.
the progression as well, like knowing they can, you know, it's not just going to stay this rate forever.
You're getting paid peanuts now, but there is a path to more on the
Yeah.
horizon. Yeah, that would be nice. Um, what's the biggest misconception that you notice amongst companies, employers about Gen Z workers?
That they don't like putting their cam on and stuff. That seems to be a big thing. It's not true. I mean, all the people in my community, when they hop on calls and masterclasses, even at like at 8 p.m., they like have the cam on and stuff like that. So we're not inapt at like being social or like weird about it. I think maybe there are a few, I don't know, but most people that I've met are pretty happy to put the cam on and like be like a normal person and talk, you know? That's been a big one.
Are you a big caller by telephone?
No. I mean, yes, I see. I'm killing my own thing that I said. It's like maybe we don't all love it that much. I feel like we've grown up in a very much like text, like you don't have to like talk to people face to face. But you know, we'll do it, you know, if it's a job. Like I will do it. I'm not gonna
Mhm.
be like, oh, I'm shy. You know, we're still gonna get on the thing and do it. But yeah, I don't like phone calls.
No. Well, I'm almost 40 years old. I also don't love phone calls myself. So reluctant callers unite. I heard you mention in another interview that about 30% of Gen Z doesn't feel confident using technology in the workplace. I found that fascinating because it also kind of challenges the whole digital native Gen Zers are glued to their phone and their appliances sort of narrative. Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah. So it's just from what I've seen in my community. So like, it's not like obviously like hard facts or anything, but I just think from what I've seen, first of all, a lot of people in my community, not a lot, but like I'd say like maybe 20%. At the start, they didn't even have like a laptop. They had like a phone. So I'm always like, already there, you're missing some kind of digital skill by not even having a laptop. Comes from a place of privilege maybe, but I also thought like everyone has a laptop. So when they were like, I don't have one, I was like, that's weird. But obviously different reasons. So you're already missing a skill there. There's a lot of people that are Gen Z that don't have a laptop. They literally just have a phone. But then I think another thing is like, what does digital native even mean? I'm thinking about it with Gen Z in the context of the workplace. Like with platforms like networking platforms online like LinkedIn and the dots, I was not digitally native with those at all. I had no idea how to use them because I wasn't taught at school how to use them. So there's gaps like that are definitely missing. Like a lot of people who join, they have this big gap with like how to use those platforms, even how to use like email properly at the start, like in a professional sense.
So we've talked about some of the misconceptions and the myths about Gen Z. I said it in my intro as well. On the spectrum between Gen Z is all the same and everyone in Gen Z is different. We're probably somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
Are there any things that you, from all your talks and all your members, have some specific common threads, some things that, yes, Gen Z creatives all have in common?
I think one of the big ones, and I'm talking more about like Gen Z writers, is that like they don't just have one skill set like writing. They're also, I found a lot of people are then very good at photography or at the same time good at design because they're learning these things on the side. It's not just like they're like a hybrid creative, a lot of them, many of them, which
Yeah.
I think is pretty cool. Some animation people with writings. That's what I found. Very few of them are just writers, which has been pretty cool.
So it's like the age of the creative generalist a bit.
Yeah, they all have like super different skills all in one, which I think makes them more attractive in a way.
Yeah. Let's talk about a nice Gen Z buzzword, which is cringy marketing.
Okay.
You're known for being quite outspoken about cringy marketing. What makes marketing cringe-worthy to Gen Z, and how can agencies ensure their work resonates authentically?
I think that's just the question that always gets asked. I think I'm going to start with like what I've done in Word Tonic that really works, because obviously we're a Gen Z brand, but we're also run by Gen Z, so that naturally helps. So I think one of the things that really, and I'll talk about what's cringy as well, but one of the things that really helps is like self-deprecation, like that kind of like poking fun at yourself, like don't take yourself so seriously. Like we call ourselves a scam in ads, which is like counterintuitive, but people like it. Also engaging with people directly, that we found that really works. Like a lot of people, well, a lot of Gen Z type nice try Diddy in ads, like in every single ad there's like a nice try Diddy comment. So now we call them out in the ads and stuff like that, going like, why don't you come up with a better term, like call us nice try Didina instead, which is so dumb, but that works. People like it. I think what doesn't work is just hopping on trends for the sake of it, which makes it, obviously it's like that makes sense, everyone says that, but there was this one trend like brat that happened last summer with Charlie XCX, and that could have been like a okay one for Word Tonic to hop on, but it just didn't make sense. Like, I'm just gonna say join Word Tonic on a green background for what? It doesn't add any value. So I feel like if it adds no value, what's the point? It's a bit like those Gen Z scripts that were going around like a couple months ago. I think one was from Curry's, and they were like, my Gen Z employee wrote this script. They didn't. And after a while, it gets really like embarrassing to like hear their like Gen Z script, even though it's like a joke. It's like comedy within comedy, but I don't get it. And a lot of my people in my community are like, that's so dumb that they're doing that. And knowing when a trend ends as well, like don't drag it out. That's worked pretty well. But yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah. There's that famous quote from, what is it? It's probably Ogilvy, and if it's not Ogilvy, then I'm sorry, ad historian for getting the name wrong. But something about the customer is not a dumbass. The customer, she is your wife. And I get the feeling that brands are indeed a bit too much on that. Oh, this funny video worked. Let's release a branded follow-up 3 weeks after the trend. It's going to be amazing. They're going to love it.
Yeah.
But they don't.
It's embarrassing. I think I saw something on Pinterest. I can't remember which brand it was for. But I think it was Mary Clary, that magazine that's actually kind of like for older women. And they did like a brat thing. And it was just like, why? It just was like really awkward. It didn't make any sense.
Yeah, for the somewhat older or not chronically online listener, Charlie XCX, of course, released the album Brat to huge critical acclaim. Just a poison green cover with word Brat on it, and then all of a sudden, everything was Brat, and every brand was Brat, and it was, like they say, pretty cringe indeed. Yeah.
Because Brat's meant to be like this thing of like you're embodying someone like that has like that's not perfect. Like they have like a bar strap showing they're smoking a cigarette, they're smoking a joint, like their nails are not chipped properly, and that's like what a brand is, and it just doesn't work sometimes.
Yeah, indeed, and especially with the way corporate tends to perhaps have a long like decision-making process. By the time everybody on the board has approved your marketing idea, it was like last week's topic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you give us an example of a campaign that got it particularly right for like a Gen Z audience?
I would say I'm not going to name a particular campaign. I'm going to name like a social channel that really like gets it right that I personally love and everyone in Word Tonic loves, and that's Scrub Daddy. They're just really, really good with nailing Gen Z without even like mentioning Gen Z or mentioning young people. They're just, I think it's just unhinged. Sometimes that just works really well. Like it's a washing up sponge. Why do people go so crazy about it? You know, because it's crazy. Like I feel like sometimes Gen Z humor doesn't make sense and there's no point in dissecting it, you know? That's what I found works as well for Word Tonic as well. Like sometimes we'll do something where we put like a picture of Barney the dinosaur on something, you know, and then that blows up, but there's no reason behind it, you know, which isn't helpful, but yeah.
I went through some of your posts and I actually saw one that I didn't understand. I was too old for it. When you asked some of your people to make an ad for you, and I couldn't understand it. It was a word in it, just like some consonants glued together, and it was. I had to hand in my intergenerational passport because it was way above my head.
I remember that one. It's actually kind of rude, so I don't know if I can say it out loud.
We'll cut it out. We'll cut it out after when we're processing.
It was the I get a boner when I join Word Tonic.
Yeah, like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that made no sense. There was no.
Oh.
It's so weird.
It's so weird, but you know, that's a good call to action. Join us today and get a boner. There's often a lot of stuff said about the difference between B2B and B2C marketing. Does it actually differ for somebody in Gen Z? If you're buying something for yourself or you're buying something for your business, do you expect them to market to you in a different way?
You're self-employed. You're buying like headphones for your business or whatever. You're buying a laptop. As a Gen Z person, I would prefer it actually if they talk to me in the same way as like Scrub Daddy or Crocs would talk to me. Because it's more fun. It's like, yeah, it's a business. I'm buying something for my business, but you know, why does it have to be so boring and dull? And like already like sometimes being a freelancer or running a business is like shitty. So like let's make it fun at least. That's what I think.
Yeah. We'll talk about like pushback from clients who might not be of your generation a bit later. But based on your experience and what you hear from your Word Tonic community members, what would like the ideal Gen Z friendly agency look like? And I'm talking anything you can think of, like hierarchy, work arrangements, growth opportunities.
I think it's a really big one is, well, there's two things. I really like this whole idea of like reverse mentorship, but which I'll get on into a minute. But a big one is like having hybrid office spaces. A lot of people in my community, they do complain about jobs that are just fully like in the office. They also feel like people are breathing over them. And then when the jobs that are fully remote, some of them are great, but then there's some where like there's like a software or something that it like analyzes how much you're on like the laptop. They hate that too. I think like they want to be trusted. That would be helpful. Like hop on a call, yes, check in, but not this like software that's basically like a spy. If it is remote, but definitely hybrid. People really, really, really want that. Even fully remote, but I know that's not always a possibility. And then with the hierarchy stuff, it would be cool. I find like a lot of people in the community sometimes complain that they feel like they're not like getting listened to or heard. So having more like, okay, maybe we pair like a Gen Z employee with more senior employee, and maybe for once they teach their side of things. How do they see stuff? How do they work? How do they approach creativity? I think that could also open up different ways of thinking.
What I kind of get from our talk is, and I connect it with some earlier conversations I've had from mostly older gentlemen in the agency business who talk about the new kids. They're too often or too involved in like their work-life balance, but to get really, really good at a craft like copywriting, you really have to put in the hours. Now, based on what you say, I get the feeling you're not adverse to like working hard or perhaps doing the extra work at all, but just want to feel supported, guided a bit, and also trusted.
Yeah, it's definitely that, because for me personally, I love to really push hard. Like I really enjoy that. And I know there's a lot of people in Word Tonic that are Gen Z that really enjoy that. But if you're not supported, if you're not even like, I guess, recognized, even the small things, like, okay, you did this small thing right. I mean, a lot of people have to realize that we come from backgrounds where we're not told about this career. So a lot of stuff is new to us.
Mhm.
A lot of us were like baristas or something, or like a waitress, and then suddenly we're like in an agency environment. So there's going to be things we have to learn. So when we do something small that's good, maybe recognize it, don't just brush it under the rug.
Yeah. How important is mentorship to the careers of Gen Z creatives? Did you feel mentored at all in any step of your career?
To be honest, not within like professional working environments, like not. I think being a freelancer as well, you're part of the team, but not really. So you don't get given, at least I didn't get given like the opportunities that full-time employees would get, which I get. That makes sense. Yeah. So a lot of the time when I was in agency environments that felt more full-time, I'd have a manager or something. But then when they tried to talk to me or give me advice, it did feel condescending. I'm not sure. It felt, because I think a lot of the time they would say, okay, you did this wrong, don't do that again. And I'm like, but I don't think I did that thing wrong. I didn't understand why I did it wrong in the first place. I think the only time I felt really mentored was by myself, like having my own mentor that I found by myself outside of freelance work.
No. Okay. And for agency leaders listening to this podcast, what's the one change they should do immediately to better attract and, of course, retain Gen Z talent?
I would say, because a lot of people complain about job hopping, right? Gen Z job hops a lot from place to place. There's a reason for that, I think, a lot of the time. And for me, and from what I've heard from a lot of people, is what I've said before. There's no clear route. They aren't told, okay, look, if you do this, you're going to get to this level. Like, we have kind of a plan for you to be with us, and we're going to guide you and train you, like making that up front, that there are opportunities available, and like, how do you even get to the next level? I feel like, because a lot of us don't even know how to get, what is the next level? What does that look like? How do we get there? And so if we feel like we're not getting paid enough after a certain amount of years or getting recognized, we'll probably just leave. We'd rather not have the conversation because it's scary. So yeah.
And what kind of jobs are your community members actually looking for? Do they want to work in-house for a big brand? Do they want to work for an agency? Do they want to stay freelance and have different employers?
Right now, a lot of them, I'll be honest, it's probably freelance. I think there's this dream of, having your own free time and choosing the clients and how much you charge. Obviously, it's not as easy as that, because sometimes you have to lower the rates. You can't always get the brands you want. But that's generally they want that. Or they like agencies, especially ones where you're able to work with lots of different really big brands, under one roof. So yeah.
I get the feeling once again that Gen Z just doesn't like, if we can make it, a big blanket statement. Gen Z doesn't really like dishonesty. Just explain what the job is, be open and transparent, give me opportunities, and I'll come work hard for you.
Yeah, exactly. I think the whole thing, it's just buzzwords at the end of the day. Like, okay, you're going to have this great, pizza Mondays, you're going to have this, there was like this reel of like, someone that said, oh, working in an office is like this when they tell you what the benefit's going to be like. And it was just like a picture of the water cooler and then a box of donuts. And that's what it doesn't mean anything. That's what it feels like, So I agree with you.
What are like the biggest red flag words that you see on like a job application that make you say, no, not for me?
Oh, there was a big one. What was it? It was a no ego team. We join our no ego team. Like we have no egos here. I don't know why. I don't like that. It's like, what does that even mean? Another one is when they say, I have to be honest, it's been a long time since I applied to like jobs because now they come through networking. The no ego one was a big one. I think also when they say, there's one, I don't know if they all do this, but there was a startup and they were like, we're a startup, so we have to start slow, but with time, we can progress, your salary and stuff like that. It's like, oh, you just okay, I can already tell it's not going to be good, Yeah.
We'll pay you in donuts for the time being, but trust us.
Yeah, it's going to work,
It's going to work somewhere in the future.
When they offer like the startups, I don't know what it's called. They don't offer money at the start, but they offer you like a share of the company. If maybe it will go well.
Stock options.
That, and I'm like, like if it's the next Apple, then that's amazing. But usually it's not. So. I
have to mention your LinkedIn presence. You've built quite a following with your distinctive voice, which some might consider risky in a professional context. And you're not afraid of an F-bomb or a saucy joke or some caps lock here or there. What's the most hilarious pushback you've ever gotten about your writing?
I have two. So one of them is I lost my mentor because they didn't like me swearing. They just basically blocked me fully without telling me. And then the next one was I got like a DM, and actually I made a post about it. I got a DM from the creative director of some company that's quite big, a TV company. They're not there anymore. And I did a post saying, join Word Tonic and you get to like tell strangers like thank you daddy, because on Butter, the system that we use, there's a button that you can press that says thank you daddy. And he messaged me like this whole long paragraph saying it left a sour taste in my mouth, as a guy with 2 daughters, you should know that it's not okay to have any sexual references. And I was like, what? Like you can't say this to me. And then he brought up like cases like Sarah Everhard in the UK, and he was like, this is going on right now. And I was like, that's really weird of you to tell me that, but okay.
No, that's mansplaining to the maximum effect.
Yeah, I think it's a lot easier for me now because I do a lot less copywriting for brands because I actually don't have time anymore. It's mainly just like Word Tonic now. Like I'm writing for Word Tonic, so that's great. So on LinkedIn and stuff, I don't even think about being professional. I just think about being me. So I don't think about that. And if people don't like it, they don't like it. The majority of people, they find it funny and they like it. Like even really big brands, they're not put off by it. They still find it weird, So I don't think about being professional. I just think about being myself.
That is very beautifully put. I don't even think about being professional. I just think about being myself. What advice would you give to young creatives who want to build their personal brands but are afraid of being a bit too out there?
I think it's like I used to say, oh, just be yourself and stuff like that. And, if you want to swear, swear. But I know that when you're creative, it's different for me, obviously, because I am this Word Tonic brand. It's fine. I can do this. I'm already like in a good position. But I feel like when you're starting out, there is a balance. So I would say there's a lot of talk on LinkedIn when I look at people's profiles that are young. They in their bio, they're like, oh, I'm a uni graduate and I'm passionate about marketing, like stuff like that. Just get rid of that and then just replace. You don't have to swear, but just be yourself. Write like how you'd write to your friends or like in a blog post. Why are you writing like this weird businessy version of yourself that's not who you are? So I'd say more that, and like all the posts on LinkedIn are like, I am a graduate and I would like a job. It's like, okay, well, get creative with it then, like don't talk like that. Like don't say you're a writer, at least show it,
So is there perhaps a parallel to be drawn here? Just like you don't write bland copy for your employer, you also don't want to present yourself in a bland way. Do I get that right?
Yeah. I think so, because I don't know if you're writing these like bios of yourself saying, I am a good writer and, I can do this. You're not even showing that you're a good writer. You're just saying it. So how do I know that you're a good writer? I don't care that you have like 3 years of experience. If I can't see it, in your profile or the way that you present yourself, I would think twice about hiring someone. Like I just hired someone now. It's my first employee. And I wouldn't have hired them if they had if they were talking like that, like super bland everywhere. Because it's like, what are you going to write? You just sound like AI, so no.
But do you get the impression that brands are waking up to this? That they won't hire just the bland copywriters or the people with the bland style? That they're open to being creative and a bit out there?
Yeah, I think so, but I think you have to also do it in a cool, creative way. Like you can't just start writing like weird stuff. Like if you're trying to attract a certain brand, maybe you create a piece of spec work and then, tag them, be really bold in it and write something cool. Like you got to do something cool. It can't just be just being like weird and writing like funny stuff, like that's what I always did in the past. Like even when I was trying to get jobs at like, I don't know, ASOS or something, I created like a bag for them and I did a caption and then I like tagged them. So yeah, like doing it in a cool way to grab their attention.
Yeah. I really enjoyed this talk, Carolyn. Thanks for being with us today. Before we wrap up, where can our listeners find Word Tonic or follow your work in general?
I would probably say Instagram at the Word Tonic. It's where you see the most weird stuff.
Yeah, but also you guys are on LinkedIn and other media as well, I guess.
Yeah, so
for the boomers that really want to go on LinkedIn.
Okay, Carolyn, just Word Tonic and then Carolyn McMurray. Like you'll find me there. Most of the Gen Z posts are on my account, not Word Tonic. Yeah.
So if you want to join the Word Tonic community, if you want to see Carolyn and Word Tonic's somewhat out there brands, if you want to learn about what makes Gen Z, or these Gen Z copywriters tick, or just generally deep dive into what we've been talking about, go to Instagram, go to LinkedIn, and that's where you'll find everything. Thanks for joining us today, Carolyn. And to all you millennial/boomer employers out there, if you want to get Gen Z to work and be productive for you, all you have to offer them is some support, some pay transparency, perhaps a little bit of guidance along the way so that they know they're working for some sort of goal in the future. And if they have that, they'll be your most loyal workforce. No cap. Thanks for listening to Agency Life. By the way, don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter at agencylife.nl or .be for more insights into Agency Life. We'll be back in 2 weeks with another magnificently exciting podcast. Until then.